Welcome into Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, there are a lot of nervous Philly fans when it comes to the health status of Andrew Painter right now. I'll give you what I know and the latest updates from him. And we'll also do our latest opening day roster projections. All on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years over on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, NBC Sports Philadelphia on the TV side. Happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Odyssey app, Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. You can go ahead and find Locked On Phillies just about anywhere you find podcast content. So go ahead and check that out and rate, review, and subscribe, please. I very much appreciate it. What I very much do not appreciate is the injury updates that we're currently getting on Phillies' top prospect and top pitching prospect in baseball, Andrew Painter. So earlier this week, we saw Painter throw in a live spring training game for the first time in his career. He looked great. Velocity was good. Movement was awesome. Like, kid looked as advertised. Awesome. Perfect. No complaints, right? And then yesterday we get the report that Andrew Painter came in with a little tender elbow on Thursday, and they sent him out for some tests. Don't have results yet. We're going to get more info at some point today. Haven't gotten it yet. I'm recording this at about 10:30 Eastern time on Saturday, and just no update on Andrew Painter to this point. But I'd put it firmly at a DEFCON 3 at this point. We're not going to 2 or 1. And remember, DEFCON 1 is the worst one. DEFCON 5 is the lowest level of threat. It's always backwards. I know it's so confusing. I shouldn't even use that as an analogy. The point is, we're right in the middle. You shouldn't be freaking out at this point because there's a very fair chance. I don't want to say very good chance, like it's the probability, but there's a fair chance that all the tests come back negative and Painter's fine, and he just had a little soreness for whatever reason, and he rests a week, and he's back, and he's perfectly good to go, and there's no concerns. There's also a chance that it's something more serious, and you have to look into how to handle a young pitcher's arm who only after one spring training start is already experiencing elbow discomfort. This does not bode well for the people who are in favor of having Andrew Painter up on opening day. Because the biggest concern of the people who are anti that is that you're going to burn out his arm by the time the games actually start to matter. My argument is that every game matters, and especially in a division like the NL East this year that's totally stacked, you need to compile wins, especially when Bryce Harper's out, all that other stuff. You've heard my arguments multiple times as to why Andrew Painter should be up with this team. But now the dissenters have a huge point in their favor with this elbow tenderness going on with Andrew Painter, and we'll see what the diagnosis is. May not even have a chance to have the argument because there is a chance that this is something more serious and we're leading to him being on the injured list. Who knows? I don't know at this point. It's very up in the air as to what exactly this is, and it's very vague language by the Philadelphia Phillies. It could be precautionary. It could certainly be, hey, like, we're sure you're fine, but we've got too much invested in you. You're the top pitching prospect in all of baseball. We're not going to try and push it. Take it easy. It's still early March. I get that approach if that's what the Philadelphia Phillies are doing. So I'm not totally freaked out yet because this is a guy they're going to be cautious with if anything pops up, but could also be something a little bit more serious. And this sucks, man. It really sucks. It's been a long, hard stretch for Philadelphia sports, and the team's still going to be good. If Andrew Painter is hurt, the team is still going to be very, very good. You're going to have Bailey Falters, your fifth starter. Your top 4 starters are still going to be awesome. Your lineup's still going to be elite. You still have Trey Turner. Everything's fine. But just having this exciting prospect and then immediately having potential injury issues sucks. I want to see Andrew Painter at the major league level. I want to see the kid pitch. I want something to be easy for Philadelphia for once. I don't want a World Series season to have Bryce Harper break his hand and be out for months. I don't want the follow-up to a World Series season be that Bryce Harper has Tommy John and he's gone for half the year. I don't want Seranthony Dominguez to just disappear for 2 years. I don't want Rhys Hoskins to get hurt like every other year. This bothers me that it can never be easy. Stuff never just seems to happen the right way for Philadelphia sports in general and for the Philadelphia Phillies. And I don't think this is sinking the season at all. Trust me, it's not. If Andrew Painter's not on the team, the expectations are still the same for the Philadelphia Phillies. But it was an exciting storyline, and if that gets taken away from us in just one appearance by him, I'm going to be pissed. That sucks, and there's no one to blame. It's just the nature of baseball and young arms, but it's also really refuting my point that he can handle the workload of a major league season. So a lot of stuff up in the air right now when it comes to Andrew Painter, a lot of question marks. We'll see how that all plays out when it comes to how the Philadelphia Phillies want to handle everything. And man, it's just, this is a dangerous waiting game. I hope we get news soon. If so, I'll tweet it out from my Twitter account at ConnorThomas975, which you can see if you're watching on YouTube, from at LO_Phillies as well. So we can keep all you updated on exactly what's going on with Painter. But young pitchers and today's day and age of baseball are just, you got to take care of them. You got to be cautious with them. And every little thing that feels weird with an elbow or a shoulder or an arm in general can lead to a panic attack for general managers, president of baseball ops, owners, managers, team in general, the player, the fan base, everybody. So it's a tough situation right now for Andrew Painter. Tough situation for Phillies fans right now as we await news, and hopefully it's good news. And hey, maybe it's to the point where he misses the rest of spring training, but he's ready for opening day. Well, in that case, what that probably means is that he will not be on the opening day roster, because if he's not available in spring training, they're not going to just throw him in at the major league level. That'll mean he starts in Lehigh and he works through some stuff and maybe gets called up at some point this year. But we could be looking at a minor to even potentially a significant setback when it comes to Andrew Painter's chances to make the opening day roster. We'll see. It's all up in the air. So I'll keep you updated on that. Coming up next, we're going to run through with what we know now, the opening day 26-man roster projection. I'm going to have to go against what I promised you in the last one because of this recent news with Andrew Painter. So we'll talk about that and how that affects everything. And the position player battles are starting to look a little interesting. Got some stuff I want to talk about there as well. So we'll get into everything as we continue Locked On Phillies and jump into our version 4.0, I believe it is, of the opening day 26-man roster projection. First, though, I want to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Come on, you know FanDuel. They're America's #1 sportsbook. They're absolutely awesome. So happy to have them here as one of our biggest sponsors. And it's the midway point of the NBA season. We're into the second half, so we're post-All-Star break. But there's a great opportunity for you to make some good money on it. So new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. You just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers, threes drained, all that good stuff. Check it all out. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So you can be like Joel Embiid's over in points and the Sixers to win and the over in the game and James Harden rebounds. There you go. And you get better payout if you go ahead and win that bet. It's awesome to check that out. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, let's get into the 26-man roster projection time. First, let me read through exactly what we had for our last one, version 3.0. We had JT Realmuto, Garrett Stubbs as the catchers, Hoskins, Stott, Turner, Bohm, Sosa, Harrison, and Hall, a stacked infield there, all making the roster according to the last one. The outfield, Schwarber, Castellanos, Marsh, and Guthrie are all on the team. Zach Wheeler, Taijuan Walker, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, and Andrew Painter were the pitchers. And the bullpen was Soto, Kimbrel, Dominguez, Alvarado, Brogdon, Strahm, Bellotti, and Nelson. Let's start with the position players because things are going to change. This is your weekly, the catchers are going to be the catchers conversation. JT's there, Stubbs is there. We can move on. No additional time needed to be spent there. Both those guys playing in the World Baseball Classic too, coming up. Stubbs playing for Israel, JT playing for the United States of America, of course. Infield, Rhys Hoskins, Bryson Stott, Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, all going to make the team. Edmundo Sosa, why did I say his name so weird there? Edmundo Sosa, absolutely going to be on the team as well. He's been showing some unreal power down in spring training. He had like a 440-foot home run the other day. It's absolutely unbelievable by him. He's starting to look like a just highway robbery type of effort by Dave Dombrowski to get him from the Cardinals organization. And like, that's just unbelievable that they allowed him out of that organization with the way he's played since becoming a Philadelphia Philly. So Edmundo Sosa looks great. Josh Harrison as well is going to absolutely be on the team. You could just tell he belongs on a major league roster. I don't know what he gives you at the dish, but I can tell in the field he's going to be a welcome backup. So you feel really good about that. And honestly, I got to keep Hall as well because Derek Hall is your DH. I don't see anyone else that could be in that DH spot. The other way you could go, and I'm not ready to go there yet, but the other way you could go is you could have 6 infielders in Hoskins, Stott, Turner, Boehm, Sosa, Harrison. So Hall gets left off and he goes to the minors. And Jake Cave, I guess, could be your designated hitter. He's shown a little bit of pop so far this spring. But right now, I'm going to keep it as I have it, with Derek Hall being your 7th infield option and mainly your DH day in and day out until Bryce Harper comes back, of course. Outfield, still looking at 4. And today, actually, in today's game, as I'm recording this Saturday morning, Edmundo Sosa is going to get his first look at center field. So remember, he could be a guy that plays in the outfield as well this season. We'll see how this goes today. So that covers up for only having 4 outfielders listed here. But the 4 I have listed are Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Brandon Marsh, and Dalton Guthrie. I haven't seen too much from Dalton Guthrie this spring training that I'm like, wow, this guy needs to be on the roster. And frankly, you could argue that Jake Cave's having a better spring. It's early still. It's very early, but there's a chance that this changes and it's Jake Cave as the 4th outfielder and Guthrie ends up in Lehigh. But I just get a feeling that because Guthrie was with the team last year, he has the edge between the two of them, and the organization trusts him more because they've seen him play for this team. Cave has played at the major league level before, but not with the Phillies. So very interested to see what's going on with that final outfield spot, or if they both end up making the team. Right now, I have it as Schwarber, Castellanos, Marsh, and Guthrie, though, in the outfield. I'm looking at it, and the top 3 guys are locked in. Guthrie seems to fit. I'll tell you who's making a strong push, though. Weston Wilson has been incredible. He's a versatile fielder. He can play both corner spots in the outfield. Normally plays right field, I believe, but he can play wherever in the outfield you need him to. He's hit the cover off the ball in spring training so far. And in an outfield that's got guys like Brandon Marsh, who's not known as a hitter, Nick Castellanos, who had a rough year last year, Dalton Guthrie, who's my backup option right now, who's not a plus bat at the major league level. If Weston Wilson continues to hit like this, he might find a way to force his way onto this opening day roster as one of the biggest surprises in the organization. He's already spent time at AAA, so he's ready to make the next step. It'd be logical that the next step would be the major league roster. I do think there will be a point this season, one way or another, where we see Weston Wilson get like a spot start somewhere. Maybe like Castellanos needs like a day or 2 off, and you're already playing someone because of injury, and it's just like, okay, we'll call up Weston Wilson. But if he keeps playing like this, it's going to be really hard to look that guy in the eye at the end of spring training and say, nah, you didn't do enough to make the team. He's playing really well. He's not there yet because, frankly, this team is stacked. But Weston Wilson making a strong, strong push. He's leading the team in homers. He's leading the team in RBIs. He's making a strong push for the opening day roster. And we're only about a week and a half into this thing. So we'll see how his spring continues out. But he could be a guy that gets mentioned on a 26-man roster projection at some point later on in spring training. So something to keep an eye on there as well as we look toward that. And he's a guy that maybe fills that DH requirement too. If you don't trust him in the outfield, I don't know. He's left the ballpark a couple times. He hits the ball hard. Righty bat, but we'll go ahead and see how he plays out as far as everything too. That designated hitter spot is still kind of iffy for me. So I'm going to keep an ear out, and you should as well, for any time that Rob Thompson gets a chance to talk, Dave Dombrowski gets a chance to talk, or some of those guys that could be in that designated hitter spot, the Derek Halls, the Jake Caves, the Weston Wilsons. Anytime you hear anything from them, Edmundo Sosa as well, because listen, he keeps hitting like that. maybe he's not the worst option to DH on a daily basis. But I'm going to listen to try and figure out exactly where they plan on going with these guys as far as the DH spot, because that's the only real spot in this Phillies lineup that's like, I don't know who it's going to be. So we'll see how that plays out and keep you updated on that. But that's the position players again: Remuto, Stubbs, Hoskins, Stott, Turner, Bohm, Sosa, Harrison, and Hall. Schwarber, Castellanos, Marsh, and Guthrie in the outfield, with that final outfield spot being the most contentious of any of the position players when it comes to who can make the roster. Coming up as we wrap up, we're going to get into the hurlers. And frankly, man, it lasted a week. My promise lasted a week. I'll explain what it was, why it's gone, and how the Philadelphia Phillies pitchers on this version of the roster projection are different than what I had last time. We'll discuss coming up as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. All right, so what I had last time in the starting rotation was Zach Wheeler, Taijuan Walker, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Andrew Painter. And I said, I'm locking Painter in here, barring any type of crazy comments from anybody saying, no, he's not ready, or injury or anything like that. I was going to lock him into being on the 26-man opening day roster. And guess what? We've already got injury issues, and we've already got concerns about the elbow, and we've already got tests being run and everything. And I can't, in good faith, go ahead and take Painter and keep him on this opening day roster projection. Right now, it doesn't look like he's going to be. If they're worried about his arm already, like the things that would have to go right for him to be on the opening day roster with this concern about his elbow is all these tests would have to come back negative. He'd have to not miss more than a week of spring training. He'd have to throw really well in addition to that and not have any other issues the rest of the way. And frankly, it's just it's too much up in the air for me when it comes to what's going on with Andrew Painter and these questions surrounding his arm. I reserve my right to change this around, of course, because we're going to continue to update roster projections. But right now, the way I'm looking at it, this team's being cautious with Painter, and rightfully so, because he felt elbow soreness. So I'm not going to take that guy who is already probably not a coin flip, but there's a chance he's not going to be ready for opening day, or the team doesn't think he's ready for opening day, see an injury, and say, oh, no, he's definitely going to make it now. No, this removes him from contention for right now for me. And I want him to be up. I want him to be healthy, but realistically, I can't see him going for tests and say, okay, well, I'm still as confident that he'll be on the opening day roster. I'm not. We'll see what the updates have for us today, but for this time, I'm going Wheeler, Walker, Nola, Suarez. We got our first look at Taijuan Walker yesterday, by the way. Looks really good. His splitter was working. He's dealing fine with the pitch clock. He's got a nose ring. I don't know if he always had a nose ring, but he looked good. This top four in the rotation is looking awesome. Very excited about what they look like come end of March. I guess it is March now, so end of this month. But top four looks really good. I'm putting Bailey Falter there in that fifth spot. So Falter gets the fifth spot in the rotation with Painter still down in AAA Lehigh, and that is your starting pitching setup for the Philadelphia Phillies, which means the bullpen is staying the same. There's no changes there with the bullpen because there's a debate about whether or not Falter should be in the pen. I haven't seen any guys that have really, really impressed me over the course of spring training so far that I say, oh, well, these guys need to be an arm on the Philadelphia Phillies major league roster in the bullpen. So I'm sticking with Gregory Soto, who still is not in the country because of visa issues. We'll see how that plays out. He needs to get here eventually. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm not an expert in visas or international travel or anything of the sort. So I don't want to give you any false information. I literally know nothing about nothing when it comes to the process for him getting back into the country and everything like that. So we'll see how that plays out. But the sooner the better for Soto. He's still going to be on the major league roster, though. Craig Kimbrell will make it. Seranthony Dominguez and Jose Alvarado, who both got extensions this offseason, will make it. Connor Brogdon will make it, who's got a mustache now. A mustachioed Connor Brogdon threw for the first time this week in a live spring training game. Looked all right. Looks fine. Nothing crazy. And relief pitchers you don't really see that much out of in spring training, but it's fine. But a little different facial hair for Connor Brogdon. He'll be on the roster. Matt Strahm, who's a new addition this offseason through free agency, he will be on the roster. Andrew Bellotti, who got a start earlier in the week, he will be on the roster as they look to use him as more of a long man, sort of like how they used Bailey Falter at points and Nick Nelson at points last year. And I got Nick Nelson on the roster again. He'll be in the bullpen. and kind of one of those eat some innings roles, but is still good enough to be a part of this team. And I think he earned that opportunity from what he did last year. Not an outstanding season last year, but he was a guy that you look at that you said, okay, he's not killing you. He's not doing anything special. He's not killing you. You could trust him to just like eat some innings without totally imploding. You need guys like that in a major league bullpen, especially when you're still totally getting it to a point where it's nasty. This is a very, very good bullpen. The top four are awesome. And then Brogdon, Strahm, and Bellotti are pretty good options for depth pieces. And then Nelson's like, okay. But the top four are really, really talented. So I'm not too worried about the bullpen at all. This year, I wasn't worried about it before the Soto trade. But anyway, it looks a lot better after that too. So there's your version 4.0 of the roster projection. The only change really is Andrew Painter is no longer on the roster, and I'm moving Bailey Falter in there as my fifth starter as the projection because I don't know what's going on with this elbow. It makes me very, very nervous to sit here and think about. So that's what we've got as far as that's concerned. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now make your next listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Lindsey Crosby does a great job covering prospects. I'm sure he'll have thoughts about the Andrew Painter situation and everything going on there, but we'll also talk about some of the up-and-coming prospects in baseball. I heard some really good stuff about Griff McGarry this week following his first appearance of the spring. So what does he look like? Does he have a chance to be the surprise of the Phillies season with everyone focused on Andrew Painter? I don't know. It's a fair question. So we'll have to discuss that at some point this week. But Lindsey Crosby has all the answers on Locked On MLB Prospects. Check out his work there. And make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing on YouTube, everything over there. Appreciate all that. We've been doing really well with subscribers lately. So thank you to everyone who's jumped on the Locked On Phillies bandwagon. We're just getting started. Season isn't even here yet. We're still in spring training. So jump on now so that by the time the season rolls around, you won't be a Johnny-come-lately, and you'll be already locked into everything you need to know about your 2023 Philadelphia Phillies as they attempt to repeat as NL champions and take home a World Series for the first time since 2008. It's going to be a fun year. You're going to want to be along for the ride. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies, though. So thank you very much for listening along. And I will talk to you next time on our next episode.